Hello, everyone, and happy Tuesday, September 21st, 2021. I believe this time for MoMM Home I have all the correct dates, the correct year, the correct weekday. I know in past episodes I have bungled that information up, but I believe I'm in the correct month, the correct day, and the correct year. So thank you again for joining us today. So excited to have today's guest with us. Jakub Trasak is a violinist, very young age, started when he was 3 years old. He grew up in the Czech Republic, and by the age of 15, I'm not joking here, he has recorded 3 solo CDs, performed hundreds of concerts, and already appeared on television throughout Europe. So that was just the start of his career. And right now, today, he's a very prolific violinist, author, not author, but a musician, composer, all of the wonderful media aspects of being a musician he is indulging in right now and becoming just an exceptional performer, exceptional artist. And a funny story how we came to meet Mr. Trasak, and I'm going to let Mr. Bill share that story with you, as well as learn all about Jakub's career today, his connection to music, and his connection to his instrument, the violin. Are we ready to get started?
Let's do it.
Welcome, gentlemen, to MoMM Home. How are we?
Doing well.
Excellent.
Thanks, BJ.
Excellent. So I have to ask you, how did we meet Jakub? Because I don't have a whole lot of Czechoslovakian violinists in my network of people that I know. So I'd love to hear this tale.
Well, BJ, I'm with you there. I don't have a lot of Czech violinists in my network either, but I'm happy to say we have one now in Jakub. And let me start actually by giving credit where credit is due. Jakub, you and I met along with my wife, Donna. We were on a cruise ship through Greece on an amazing Viking sea liner called the Viking Sea. And you were performing nightly with a very talented pianist named Dalamil. And we were listening one evening, and my wife turned to me and said, Jakub would be a great guest on MoMM Home. And I couldn't agree more. So let me start by thanking Donna for making the suggestion.
Awesome.
And that is how we met. And I asked you about it, and you immediately said, that sounds great. Let's do it. Part of the story was that I gave you my work email. You sent an email to me and said to me the next time you saw me, well, I sent you an email, but it says you're not at work right now. So here we go. So speaking to the cruise and other things you've done, you've given over 2,000 performances in venues around the world. Did you seek that cruise gig out on your own, or was that a management booking?
There is a funny story how I got into performing in this setting. I was on a vacation with my dad, and he's an avid cruiser. And we went on a bigger ship together, and it was around the New Year's in the Caribbean. And I fell in love with the stage because you have unbelievable shows that are happening there. And I also saw a violinist that performed on that stage. And I'm like, okay, she's fine, but I can certainly do what she's doing. Mm-hmm. And just out of curiosity, I befriended the cruise director, and I asked him, because they're very friendly, I asked him, can I have 15 minutes of your time? And he said, yeah, what do you want? It's like, just can you meet me? So he did. He was amazing. And I set him in front of a computer, put these headphones on him, mm-hmm. and played him my 2-minute long sizzle reel. And he's like, oh, this sounds actually really good. Is that you? Yeah, that's you? That's awesome. Do you want to be performing? What's the deal here? It's like, what do you think? And it's like, oh, you would be amazing. So what are the steps? And he recommended me to reach out to one of the agents who was actually a dear friend of his, Gary Arbuthnot. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable performer himself and very seasoned pro in this field. And we connected, and things picked up really fast for me, thanks to Gary and thanks to my experiences. And it was a nice change of pace because I toured all around the US. I think I'm missing one state, that I haven't performed in, and this gave me an opportunity to really explore the world, because before our schedules got a little different, I spent about 300 days on the road traveling pretty much all around the world. So I was very, very grateful for this connection. Eddie Jenkins is the man in question here from Celebrity, and Gary Arbuthnot is unbelievable agent that I have the wonderful pleasure to work with right now.
That's great.
Now, see, I don't have a 2-minute drum reel. I forgot to mention this to you, Jacob, but I'm a drummer, and
Cool.
I don't know if that tactic would work as well for me if I started sending people 2-minute drum reels. They might say, "Don't, please don't." But I'm so glad. That's an amazing way to get your music in front of somebody, is just have that reel and check that out.
Yeah, so that happened, and the situation where I met Bill. So when I travel, I have what is called the guest entertainer status. Means that I show up and I perform usually 2 45-minute shows in the main of the theater. They offered me actually last minute deal, or they were in need of a help where some of the much longer sets throughout the day were not able to make it out, and I said, okay, let's do it. I'll just be there. I'll grab a piano player that I can work with from the Czech Republic, and it was unbelievable to have that experience as well, performing several times a day, and after not having an interaction with the live audience for a year and a half, really feel the energy in the room, and of course try new songs and try new repertoire, because that's always fun.
Always fun to get those new songs into the rep, like you say. So those are two excellent lessons, Jacob, for people who are aspiring to do what you do. One, you have to be the best self-promoter you can be. Two, if somebody offers you the gig and it's not really what you usually do, the answer is not no. The answer is yes, I will. Let's try that.
Commit, as one of my mentors says, commit first, figure it out later.
That's awesome. Yes.
We need t-shirts that say that. Commit first, figure it out later. I've done that too many times in my life to talk about right now on the show. But so you were playing on the cruise that we saw you, but obviously you've done some other cruise gigs. How would you compare that to, say, playing? Because, okay, let me back up a bit. When we would see you each night, you'd be in the lounge area right by the bar, and people were enjoying drinks and enjoying the music, but it wasn't the same as a concert where we bought tickets to go see Jacob and Dalamil at such and such a hall. How would you compare those two performing ways?
For me personally, there is no difference, because every time when I step in front of the audience with my instrument, it doesn't really matter to me if it is just the two of us somewhere in a room, or if I'm on a stage in a Carnegie or at Boston Symphony Hall. The energy projection might be different, but for me, the connection comes from the same place. And at the end of the day, the most satisfying thing for me is to look at the people's eyes at the end of the performance and see that something has shifted inside of them. Something has changed. And that's what I'm trying to go after every single time when I take the violin and I step in front of the people. So for me, it is identical. Every environment has its challenges. In a close proximity to people. The interaction can go deeper. I can ask them what music they like, or what artists they like. And I have about 500 songs in my repertoire. So I tend to get quite lucky that they sometimes name artists or a song that they might enjoy. And for me, the combination of instrumental violin music and the genres that are connected with pop music from 60s to recent years, there is a little unexpected moment that happens when somebody says, oh, we like Stevie Wonder. And I'm like, okay, here's little Sign Seal delivered for you. Or here's little, or here are little lines from Sir Duke, you know. So there is this unexpected flavor. And that's what my music journey has been about, exploring how much music I can deliver on these four strings and in different contexts.
Right.
And then when people are with me in the hall, it has to be a little bit more programmed. It has to be a little bit more thought out to what repertoire I will use, what I will talk about in between the songs. Of course, things happen naturally. Yeah. But for me, the outcome is the same, to somehow change the environment, change the people, for them to have a great experience.
Right. You know, you use the word connecting and connection, which we use all the time at the museum too. So there's lesson number 3 for our viewers. You're connecting with your instrument, as you say, no matter where you are. It doesn't matter if it's 2 people or 2,000 people. And again, as you say, you're looking for that connection from you to reach out to your audience and connect to them. So speaking of different types of music, different venues, different approaches, one night on the cruise, you performed in the showroom on the main stage, and you were backed by the house band for young musicians from the Philippines who played pretty much every night. Whoever was the artist of the night, they were the backing band. They were great. But I'm going to assume these were new players to you. They're people you hadn't met before. How did you approach your repertoire then when you first met these 4 young men?
I try to be very smart also when I step into situations. So I know that there is a set amount of time each day before the show to rehearse the show. So the shows that I do these days, they are 45-minute long. And I was very lucky because I had a lot of experience. And basically on a very first try, I put together a repertoire and sort of approach to the charts that the musicians that are around, they have it has to be said that they have a certain standard, certain ability to read, and they are very good at their instruments and of course playing with each other. So my approach is that I play music that they might know, that they played before, or they are familiar with the concepts of the music. Because if I will play a driving Irish beat, it will be very easy for them to make the connection. If I will play a song that is coming from Eastern Europe, that is sort of like a chardash bass that is starting slow, but then it speeds up and has like a polka feel to it, they sort of know what to make of it. Or if I play a little tango, you know. So the strategy that I use is I use a framework of the charts, and they are jazz charts, meaning there are certain specific rhythms that I recommend. There are chords that are written above. And then, and I say it's one of the first things that I say during the rehearsal is, I trust your musicianship. I trust you to play together as a band. And it's more important for me to have a great time and great energy on a stage and project it to the audience. I don't care if you hit the hit in bar 33 in this song. It's more important that we play together and it flows. But I've seen, because I travel a lot and I go to all the other shows and I talk with the musicians as well. It's part of the process. And I've seen the opposite spectrum of the performers as well, when they come with heavily arranged sheet music, which works brilliantly, but they put a lot of pressure on the band and on the performance itself, to rehearse it in such a limited time. So for me, my bands are in and out within an hour, usually 45 minutes. I give the music ahead of time. They just open it up. We read it once through, and then we have a show time.
Yeah.
So that's how good the musicians are, and I'm trying to be smart in the approach as well.
Plus, you're making them feel relaxed. You're not coming in with, I'm the artist and you better play every note on this chart right, or you're going to hear from me. Which, as you say, some of them bring in, and I'm not saying that all the artists are that way by any means, but they will bring in charts that are overly notated. And to me, that can almost be detrimental to the performance because, like you say, the musicians now are nervous. Oh my gosh, look at all that ink on this page. Whereas if it's a lighter sketch chart with chords and some hits that you'd like to have happen in the right place, I think it's going to be more relaxed for them, and you're all going to have much more fun. And it was real obvious to see when we watched the show too. Now, when I was listening to you play, in particular, when you were in the lounge area with Dalamil, who, by the way, is a fine pianist, and if you see him there, please wish him well from us.
I will.
I was really taken by the tone of your violin. I figured it must be decades old, maybe even hundreds of years old, right? I've seen players that play, this was built in the 1700s, and they sound wonderful. And you told me it was just a few years old. Now, how much of that is from the luthier who built this instrument, who feel free to give him props while we're talking too, and how much of that is from your fingering technique?
Okay, so one of my violin heroes is Yasha Heifetz, probably the greatest classical violin player, and also probably musicians who ever walked this planet. And when people came to him after the show, and they were like, "Oh, Mr. Heifetz, your violin sounded amazing today." He would take the instrument, and he would say, Oh, funny, I don't hear anything. So, but there are two sides of the story. Okay, so the one thing that probably deceived you, Bill, is the look of the instrument.
Yes,
because it really looks like it was made, sometimes in the 1800s, and then that it has been around for a long, long time. But she's about 2 years old right now. We are having a little birthday party shortly. The genius behind this instrument is an American violin maker called Terry Borman. And I was very lucky through circumstances to his name and now to hold his instrument. For me, it was, if we will tap into something that the violin players or the musicians can relate in your community. Coming into US, I had a very basic instrument, and of course, I was frustrated. But I had a very nice budget for the instrument. But I decided to spend it on my studies. I decided to invest it to Berklee College of Music. I got an amazing scholarship there, but it was still a huge stretch. So instead of building a house, getting a second car, starting a family, and buying an amazing instrument, I decided to go to the United States and stick with my old violin for very, very long time. Yeah. And my first year I was in Boston, I decided, okay, I'm here. Let's go to a violin shop and try out some violins. And it was amazing because you guys in the US are, in a certain sense, unbelievable people, how you treat others without not knowing much about them. Because I walked into the shop and I talked to the lady, and she's like, "What can I help you with?" And it's like, "I'm looking for an instrument." And she's like, "Okay, what's your budget?" And it's like, let's not really talk about budget. I just want to see some instruments. And she's like, "Okay, right this way." So we started at instruments at like $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, and there were some older instruments and some little bit younger. but nothing that really caught my eye. And she sensed that I could play a little bit, but I didn't seem probably like a happy fella. So I'm like, do you have anything else? And it's one of the best shops in Boston. So I knew that they had something else. So finally she brought more expensive instruments. And when I was playing an instrument for about $200,000, I am like, oh, this is great. I really like this. And now you sense the problem, right? Because it was it was really discouraging for me to be able to be in such a close proximity to the desired outcome in the instrument. But I was just a studying boy at Berklee College of Music, so it took years. And the story was that a dear friend of mine, unbelievable classical violin player, Filip Pogady, who is from my neck of the woods, from Slovakia, went to do a show in Fayetteville, Arkansas, middle of nowhere. Not like I'm sorry, I apologize to everybody who lives in Fayetteville.
It's okay. I don't know where this is at. I know where Arkansas is.
Walmart has their headquarters there, as I understand.
Oh, okay.
All right. But so it's a famous town because of that reason. And as I found out after that, one of the best violin makers on this planet lives there. Wow. So Philip gave there a concert. Somebody came to him and it's like, oh, you have a pretty nice fiddle, but there is this maker in town. Maybe you should try his fiddle. And they brought a fiddle that he tried, and Philip, dear friend of mine, he truly played one of the oldest and greatest instruments on the planet. So he has the reference point, and he played it, and he's like, holy, okay, this is it. Like, this guy really knows what he's doing and what he's talking about. So he told me about it. We went to a shopping spree to New York to try fiddles together. And we ran into same problem. The instruments that we liked were in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Wow.
And we said we have to go and meet Terry and talk with him. What are the options? So the instrument is not cheap, and it's on the truly upper side of what person can ask for a modern instrument. But I think he's a genius. Anne Akiko-Meyers has his instruments. He did the exact replica of the Vietnam violin, which is one of the most celebrated and actually one of the most expensive violins ever made. Mr. Pinker Zuckerman has a couple of his violins, and a list of A-lister classical violin players. And I was fortunate enough. We agreed that he will make an instrument for me. I waited. It took, year and a half or something like that, almost 2 years. But she's here. Yeah. She's here. So that's the story with it. I thought I don't usually tell the story in regular interviews, but I thought Museum of Making Music, getting a little behind the scenes to your audience, they might enjoy it and appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So it is the genius of the maker, that is for sure. But then if you don't have the technical and the ear to get as much as possible out of that instrument, it is like having a really fast Formula One car, but if you don't know how to drive it, it's useless.
Yeah, well, great summation. Well, we've been looking at that beautiful instrument now for about 5 minutes and hearing about it. I think now would be a great time to hear a little bit of what you can do with her. And one of the things that I loved in your, how about that for a segue? One of the things that you talk about in your show, you get asked by people, what's the difference between a violin and a fiddle? You've got a great explanation, which I'll let you share, but I'd love to hear a little bit of violin, classical, maybe. I mean, before we went on air, you were sliding in and out of classical to fiddle to rock. Take it away, Jacob.
Yeah, oh, that's funny. like you want to hear something, guys? Now, okay. So I will tune first. So we can warm up on something.
Wow, little Coldplay in there, little Hallelujah in there. That was great.
Yeah. Little medley. I did. It was just inspired by the moment.
That's
tough
cool.
to plan these things. So
That's perfect.
little Coldplay, little Hallelujah, and little improvised fiddle tune or fiddle bluesy riffs in between. So that's
Nice,
that's
wonderful.
I think I heard a little Irish melody in there too. All of a sudden, my heart got really warm there for a second.
It's possible.
So, what is your definition when somebody says to you, "What's the difference between a violin and a fiddle?"
To the audiences, I tend to explain it that the violin is associated most of the time with the classical music,
Mhm.
and then the fiddle is associated. When you say that somebody plays the fiddle, it tends to be connected more to bluegrass, Irish, country music.
Mhm.
If I would dive into further detail, because I can with you guys, the violin has a certain way how it is built in terms of the proportions and how the instrument is set up. And when I was traveling to Nashville, to the place where I would say you can find the most fiddle players per square mile, I went to the very famous fiddle shop, violin shop in Nashville in Tennessee, and I tried a bunch of their fiddles. And what I found was that the setup of the instrument is very different.
Okay.
The part Violin Secrets with Jakub Trasak. Oh, here we go. Take notes, fiddle players. Okay. The bridge is this part that connects, divides the strings, right? And the classical instrument has it quite tall. Like the curve is much bigger than on the fiddle. On the fiddle, the bridge is actually more flat, and it has several consequences. The first consequence is that the strings for the double stops are closer together, so they are easier to play. So if you will like switch to the double stops, means the two notes at the same time. So So those are double stops, and for me it is a little more tricky to play it I have the classical setup of the violin.
Mhm.
So the flatter bridge allows the fiddle player to play two notes at the same time. And in general, the fiddles that I tried, they have a characteristic timbre that fits in the what I found of the sonic spectrum of the folk and bluegrass music.
Mhm.
They tend to be more darker, more sort of a mid-soundy, because then when you combine that sound in the place when you have the mandolins and the banjos sort of ringing sound,
Mhm.
and then you have underneath the acoustic guitar and the bass, the fiddle cuts right in the middle with this sound and fills up the frequency spectrum quite well. So the timbre I found it's quite characteristic. If you listen to guys like modern guys like a Michael Cleland or Stuart Duncan, you know, these guys, they have a very specific sound that fits in that context.
Yeah. Okay. So
But at the end of the day, even I heard the interview with, just to wrap it up, I heard the interview with Pinkas Zuckerman, and he's like, "Oh, me and my fiddle, this is great. You know, we had an awesome show." So then it melts down in terms of like how the instrument is actually called, but in the specifics, how I understand it and how I approach it, that's
Okay.
the story.
So in a way, they can be different instruments because of the different style of the bridge on them. Okay, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Now,
In the sonic specification.
yeah, okay. So how they translate sonically, violin being a little brighter, fiddle being a little bit on the darker side. That sounds so Star Wars. Sorry about that. So BJ said you. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jacob. I cut you off.
We're gonna let your network catch up with us, Jacob. Yeah, there you go.
Sorry, calling you from Eastern Europe, guys,
Yeah,
or like from Central Europe. Sorry, you're in California, warm weather here. I have 11:30, you know, freezing. So it's also in the classical music, it's much more frequent that the instrument has a higher demand because the repertoire is composed for the full range of the instrument, from the lowest note to the highest note. If I'm talking about bluegrass and country music, it tends to end about, you know, only in third position.
Mhm.
And you have a plenty of space left that is utilized in a solo violin works.
Right.
And
okay.
and the projection needs are different. When you have a violin like this, it can withstand of, when with the proper technique, to be put in front of the orchestra and being heard to the last row.
Mhm.
And that's you know, that's usually required if somebody wants to approach a career in the field of a violin. Fiddle music tends to be in a smaller settings, and these days most of the time there is amplification going on. So I think that if we will go one more notch into the detail in the difference or the requirement of the style, I think that's another distinction.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Now we have a couple of questions, Jacob, from Brian Donaldson, who's watching. Let me toss these out at you. Brian asks, one, is the vibrato technique, is that mandatory or is it something that just happens? That's his first question. And then I can tell you from at a certain age, it just happens, Brian, but we're talking to young players here.
And it's like asking a drummer, is like flipping your sticks, is that mandatory or does that just happen? That just
right.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay. And then he also asks, do you have a favorite composer?
Okay. In terms of the vibrato, it is great when the musician or the player uses it within their control and as a expression tool. It's something that also stylistically diversifies and makes the music more authentic. Because in the combination, if I will play, I don't know, like a Ray Charles's Georgia, let's say, first song, and if I will play like he might sing it, the pop or jazz singers, they would add the vibrato at the end of the notes just for a feel. And I try to mimic the more authentic setting. So the vibrato is actual technique. You practice it, hopefully when you're a little kiddo, and it helps to further develop the sound. But playing a melody, straight tone now vibrato. But if I would come from an approach of a classical musician, they tend to vibrate every single note because for them it enhances the sound and in a sense protects it. They make it sound larger, but then it can sound less authentic. So they're like, what song are you playing again? It's different. So within the context of the interpretation, especially in a classical music, it has a big scope: how narrow, how wide, how fast, how slow. Right. For me, it is more intuitive thing, especially when I play modern music.
Right.
Yeah.
So a composer isn't necessarily going to indicate how much or how little vibrato they want. That really is part of your expression as a musician, part of that connection with your instrument.
Yeah, for me it is. If I go and if somebody wants to interpret the music according to the standards, certain standards, how music is supposed to be played in the Baroque era or in the classical era, or in the Romantic era. So there are certain nuances, and there are hundreds of books and thousands of recordings of that, and people are trying to change the perfection of it. For me, as a sort of creative musician, my path is different. My background is different. The music that I play is different, and to a big extent, there is still a huge gap for what it means to be a violin player or a musician playing a string instrument in the 21st century. A lot has been performed and said on the violin in the context of what was then popular music, Baroque or Romantic period of time. But we still have a very few musicians who are exploring the expressive possibilities of modern and popular music. So that's what interests me, and that's where I found the most joy. I respect the classical music, and I respect the technique, the sound production, the intonation, the ensemble playing that comes from this tradition. I'm just choosing different lines and different way how to communicate with people through styles of music that are a little bit closer to my heart.
Right, and each and every one is valid, whether it's classical, Irish, pop,
100%.
rock. Yeah, it's what you bring to the table on those songs. Another question from a viewer, David Sutton. David asks, how do I tell the difference between a violin and other stringed instruments? Now, David, I'm assuming here you're talking about the violin family.
Well, this might be a good question. Like, if you know nothing about violin or stringed instruments in general, or if you're just getting started in the world of these instruments, what is the main, like, what would be the main differentiating factor? Like, how would you define the difference between like a violin and let's go with similar members of the same family, like a cello or a viola or upright bass, versus like, let's go to a different family, like maybe a guitar or whatnot. What are the defining characteristics? I know it may sound like a basic question, but I think there's a lot into it that you can unpack as an artist.
I was trying to be funny. If it stands in front of the orchestra, 99% of the time it will be violin. But that might not be true. Sorry to all the cello players, viola players, and upright bass players. No, it's very the voices of the family are very similar to human voices. So how you have the soprano, high female voice, you can relate the violin to it. Underneath, you would have the alto, which is so it depends on the color and the range of the instrument, because I have the E string and I can play notes that are really high. In the music, it brings a certain value to the ensemble, and a string quartet is a sort of a first step to listen to and maybe to see, because when you have the visual connection with seeing a string quartet, you at the parts where they are playing solo or together, see the different functions of the instrument. So then you would have a first and second violin. Second violin usually plays, it's the same instrument but lower register. The viola has a one string lower setting, so they cannot go as high, but they come with the lower parts that are much more fruitier and juicier. The instrument is slightly bigger, so it can resonate in that range spectrum much better. And I know that there are so many bad jokes about viola, but I have friends who play the instrument. They are absolutely madly in love with it, and I think to a certain extent it also chooses the personality. But for the listener, that would be another color of the voice. And then you have the cello. The position changes. If you see it visually, it's no longer held on your collarbone under your jawbone. But it's the other way around, right? You have in front of you between your knees, and it's a bigger instrument with much darker color. So then we would go lower, and the upright bass, that's the bass sound in the choir or in the family. And just it has to be said that every of the instrument has there are virtuoso performers who truly mastered all the capabilities. So if you see this huge instrument and it's like, oh, that will be just boring notes, go listen to Edgar Meyer and he will blow you away, and you have so many amazing musicians that just push the boundaries of the instrument. So visual. My suggestion for the listener, string quartet is a great starting point. Then the orchestra is the next level, and then hearing the music in a different context of ensembles. I think it will click much easier.
That's great. Great suggestion.
Yeah, go see a quartet or even a quintet if you want to see the double bass playing with them. Let's talk real quickly about studying. Our hours just flying by, and this is so much wonderful
Sorry,
information.
Bill.
Don't
I
be
warned
sorry.
you in the beginning.
You told me, but it's so great. I want to let you go. I don't want to stop any of this. Now, you've studied in several different environments. There were three that I picked out. Conservatory of, I can't even say it, Conservatory of Jaroslav Jezek in Prague, Berklee College of Music in Boston, which you've talked about, and also the Mark O'Connor Fiddle Camp in Nashville.
Uh-huh.
So talk about diverse environments. What did you take away from each of these three learning environments?
Well, coming to Mark O'Connor Fiddle Camp for the first time, it was really eye-opening. It was in 1993, and it was actually the first ever camp that he has ever done. He's been doing them ever since. And for me, it was very special because I had a chance to meet fiddle players and violin players and some cello players as well from all over the US. And they suddenly exposed me to different kinds of music. I was very keen on playing bluegrass and country music. I heard some recordings of Stefan Grappelli, and I had all the CDs at that time, like 3 that were ever imported to Czechoslovakia from Mark O'Connor, and that's how I learned about the camp. And Mark, with his CD, The New Nashville Cats, really inspired me because he sort of showed what is possible to do on these 4 strings. He compiled 50 best studio musicians of the 80s and early 90s and recorded a CD with them. And that was unbelievable record. And the environment exposed me to new teachers and styles of music. And in general, it was much different learning experience because the interaction between the musicians were happening on the oral basis, meaning it was an audio exchange. You were learning sound, you were learning notes. And when I was studying classical music in the Czech Republic, you take a sheet of music and you're trying to sight read it down. I think the first correct one, you have to have the audio representation, the sound, what you're trying to learn, and then the music will come along with it. But there is so much more information that is hidden in actually hearing somebody perform the piece than can be put on the piece of music. Although classical violin or classical composers try, but there is the tradition of passing down the knowledge and the wisdom from the masters who wrote the songs through the cascade of teachers to current violin performers. So that was amazing. And I finally had a chance to interact with people who were my age, 8, 10, 12 years old, who are at this point absolute rock stars and number 1 A players in their designated styles of music. I interacted there with people who are just unbelievable in a Nashville scene or in a classical music world. So that was amazing. Conservatory was I was very fortunate to have 3 45-minute lessons with my teacher, and they go really in depth. They try to help you with technical issues, and it's a lot of time, a lot of individual attention. And then when I went to Berklee College of Music, it was exact opposite. It was 30 minutes once a week to study at that time, to study with my mentor during my private lesson. And suddenly I was like, okay, I can say hello, I can tune my instrument, I can play through 2 songs, and he can give me 2 suggestions of what to work on for next week. and that's about it. So very different learning experiences. All of them have their value. All of them have their place. But in general, I think it's the combination of being in an environment where you meet like-minded people and you have a chance to musically interact with them, then have some kind of structured feedback from somebody who helps you with the technical side of the instrument, and then some kind of a pressure of a live performance or something that is in the calendar that really pushes you to do a lot of work in a short amount of time. And learning from recordings, transcribing. So those are, I think, the approaches that I recycle over and over again.
And all of those skills, practicing, being mentored, transcribing is huge, because when you sit down and write out melodies that you've never seen before, you're really training your brain to hear these things now. And so when you're playing by ear, it just really puts you so much more forward in the game. So all of those environments had their pluses, and I think you've put them all to use. And on that, I want to play a little short compilation video that is just wonderful. It's you and a couple of other musicians. We have Slava Tolstoy on guitar, and Greg Feingold. I'm sorry. Guitar, Slava Tolstoy, bassist Greg Feingold, and then we have Victor Prieto. Don't see him, but he's on the accordion, and of course Jakub on the violin. So let's look at that. And before we do, let me tell everybody to go to your website, jakubtrasak.com. You'll see these video compilations, so much examples of your amazing work. So BJ, why don't we watch that real quick?
All right, let's gather together and roll this video.
Yes, sir.
Wow, yeah.
Yes,
that's
sir.
Great.
One word comes to mind, Jakub: effortless. I hear these notes
Thank
flying,
you.
but I don't see those fingers sweating at all. That's just fantastic.
I will just give the credit where the credit is due. These are the videos that we recorded with the two projects that I had a wonderful pleasure to tour around the U.S. International String Trio and the Valinor Quartet. And the guitar player, Slava Tolstoy, he was one of the first people that I met in Boston. I learned really a lot from him. So it was amazing. After the US tour that we did, we went to studio and we recorded these songs, and I just put a little collage together so people can have a little bit more fun. But I highly, if you type in Hallelujah String Trio, it pops up under the project, and people can enjoy it. And Victor Prieto on the accordion, truly outstanding musicians. I had a blast sharing the stage with them.
Well, let me first offer Victor an apology. You certainly do see him in the second song in the video.
It's so good.
It gets by so fast. Victor, there you are, and it sounded wonderful along with everyone else. Yeah, believe it or not, we're coming up on the hour, and certainly there's another video compilation I want to play. But real quickly, just to get back to David Sutton's question and maybe muddy the water up a little bit, there is an innovation that I discovered not too long ago. Perhaps it's been around for a long time, but the 5-string violin. Now, Jakub, is that something that you play?
I don't play 5-string violin. I have a dear friend of mine who recently purchased one, and I played on it a few times in my life. I even held and played on a 6-string violin and also violin with frets. So there are instruments out there that are expanding what is considered to be violin, but it has its practical application, especially the 5-string violin. For somebody who needs the extra string, for example, to accompany their other fellow band members, or it's great when you're accompanying yourself singing. I know some friends who are able to sing very well and accompany themselves. So that helps a lot with the harmony, the extra string. Then the would be the viola. You would expand basically the range. And it's a little bizarre because you have one string in the middle suddenly. Now I don't have anything in the middle and it's a little different. You have to get used to it, but it certainly has its practical applications.
That would really surprise your muscle memory, wouldn't it, having that extra string in the middle?
Yeah.
But with it, as you say, you've got now the range of the viola and the violin combined. Now, you mentioned a 6-string violin. Does that mean there's an extra string on the high end, or
on the lower end?
Okay.
It goes lower. But the one that I tried, it was electric. So
was this the Mark Wood electric violin? Have you heard of the Wood violin? I think those are the fretted ones.
It was a different maker, different designer,
okay.
But very, very similar concept. Yeah. Where you're expanding the range of the instrument, so you can do more, especially harmony. And substitute the bass basically, and play the bass melody and harmony at the same time.
Well, Jakub, let me share something from your website that really speaks to what we've talked about. Your own words here. You say, "I believe that music instantly changes the energy in the room and how people feel. That is why I passionately persuade the creation of magic moments that will create the most cherished memories." That's beautiful. That's very well said and speaks directly to your audience, and I think just really addresses what we had spoken of earlier, and that's how you connect, and you want to connect with them. I know, BJ, you felt it. I felt it when you play music and you see it in people's eyes. Even sometimes, I'm sure this happens to you all the time. They'll come up to you and say, "Oh my gosh, when you played Hallelujah, that brought me back to 1983 when," or "you played this," and so on and so forth. So we're going to finish up with a medley of songs, and this features you and another pianist named Jiří Nedoma. Correct me if I'm getting that wrong. Either way, perfect. Thumbs up for both.
He will be proud. You got it, and you didn't even get my advice that saying hello to Jiří. I will send him this clip. You did awesome.
Oh, good, do. But before we play the video, let me sort of preface what we're going to see. We're going to see 3 parts. It's BJ was kind enough to put 3 sections together from one of your videos on your website, and so we're going to hear a little bit of a song called Stardust. We're going to hear some bluegrass, and we're going to hear you and Jiří playing over some changes on a pretty happening pop song that I think people might recognize when they hear the changes. But you tell a great story about how you and Jiří met at this, I guess band camp is not the right word, but it was a gathering of music students, music professionals, and you said, "Take it away. If you need more clues, I'll give you more."
No, I'm not sure exactly what I was talking about there, but the truth is, hopefully I will not come up with a different story. Sorry, Bill. I met Jiří my very first day at oh, you mean that gathering? Okay. The truth is that I met Jiří at in school, my very first day, and he recognized me from the TV, because as a kid I was performing in the as a kid in a shows over here in the primetime TV. And it was fun just not being able to connect in the Czech Republic, where he was teaching at the conservatory at the time that I attended at the Conservatory of Jaroslav Jezek. And we met first day in 2007 at Berklee College of Music in September. Just randomly, he also got a very high scholarship, and he's an unbelievable genius level piano player. And I was very fortunate to spend a lot of time with him. He showed me a lot of music, and we were roommates throughout our Berklee days, and even after we finished the school together. So it was amazing. And the clips that you're about to show, they were from a very nice performance that we did together in Washington.
Yeah. Let me just add one more bit to it, because this is the bit that really gave me a chuckle. You were at this gathering and you were thinking to yourself, what are the chances I'm going to meet somebody else from the Czech Republic? And you met Yuri and you said, so where are you from? And he said, I'm from Czech Republic.
What a coincidence.
One of those bingo moments.
Yeah. So you gave the stage performance version. Yeah, you get all the jokes. I told the audience the factual thing. Yeah, I'm with you, Bill. Your version is better. I like it. Good stuff.
You just need to take me on the road. I'll introduce
you
guys.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you.
So as we go, I want everybody to watch and listen to Yuri as he comps underneath what you're doing, because he is such a sensitive pianist. And yet every once in a while, you'll take a breath and he knows exactly to put a little riff in there and then back out again. Just a tremendous combination, both of you together. So BJ, whenever you're ready, we'll go ahead and roll this video.
Here we go. Wow. Gee. It's like,
Good
what?
time.
It's so fast.
I'm burning up over here. That's amazing. What's
that-
the name of? Sorry, BJ, go
We
ahead.
call that lightning grass is what we call that. That's amazing.
It's not blue, it's white lightning. What's the name of the trio that you said you travel over here to the States with? I'm just thinking ahead here, as I always like to do.
International String Trio.
Okay.
International Trio. There was the instrumentation and the band members that you had a chance to see.
Perfect.
Yeah, but it is such a pleasure to be kindly reminded, guys, because I don't usually watch the old projects, you know,
Sure.
that was a very nice performance. And it's a wonderful to see Yuri in action again. I'm very happy that we did this show and that it was captured forever.
Yeah.
It was great. So thanks. It's a good one.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it's so great watching you bowl and really watching him working it, and especially in that last song. I think he was holding on for dear life, to be honest, but you could just see that total concentration. And you, again, are just cool as a cucumber. Jakub, this has been amazing, and you're so full of amazing knowledge. You're so happy to share it, generous with your time. I know it's late for you over there. Is it pushing midnight by now? 11-ish?
It's after midnight, but that's
It's
the
tomorrow.
least I can
He's already
do.
into tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Very happy to do this.
And we're very happy to have you. I've been known to stay up after midnight occasionally these days myself, but
Good.
you're very gracious to do this for us. And I just want to thank you from myself, for the Museum of Making Music, for all the musicians that you've blessed with your time this afternoon. Thank you so much. It's what a great happenstance that Donna and I met you on the Viking Sea a month ago. So thank you so much.
Well, I think hopefully, you know, whenever you're back into our neck of the woods on this side, you know, we'd love to welcome you to the Museum of Making Music for a little, you know, tour. And, you know, I've already seen a couple comments from our audience that is like, when can we see Jakub perform at the Museum of Making Music? We don't know yet. We don't know. We'll put it in the suggestion box when he's over here. When the next opportunity you have to come to the States, we'll see what we can work out and what's possible. Anything could be possible.
Very happy to be part of it. And thank you so much for putting this together. I really appreciate the thought questions. I've recently done some interviews and they were sort of talking about the general things, but that you, Bill, you really came up with some very interesting topics to address and to talk about, and that's really it was a great time for me. I appreciate it.
Well, likewise, and right back at you. Thank you so much, Jakub, and all the best to you in whatever your pursuits are. I know you're composing, you're playing, you're producing, you've got so many things going on. So we're going to keep looking for good things. Remember, everybody, it's jakubtrasak.com. And if you can't remember that, go to our website. You'll find his name and then look up jakubtrasak.com. Thanks, Jakub. BJ,
thanks, everybody.
All right. Wonderful. I am so excited to learn about Jakub and his music today. It was, as I was listening to those pieces, I felt like there was a bit of him in every piece that he did, regardless of musical style. Like that, there's that single thread that combines it too, and it was so fun to witness that, and across all these different styles that he has mastered and performed. Thank you to our audience today. I'm going to take a look really quickly what's coming up on the horizon on our event calendar. This week, we actually have 2 online programs this week. The first is today, Mom at Home with Jakub. And then this Thursday, we have a new program at the Museum of Making Music called the San Diego Sound Project. And this is a musical series that we've just launched. Thanks to the Conrad Prebys Foundation, we are showcasing emerging talent in the San Diego area. Every San Diego Sound Project event features 2 components. The first is what we're calling Show Notes, which is an online discussion with one or several of the artists to talk about the music and the band. And so this Thursday, we have our very first Show Notes coming up. We're going to be talking with Chris Prescott, a wonderful, very, very talented drummer performer from the Montauban Quintet. He'll be talking about their epic journey and what they've been doing and the music that we're going to be discovering on Sunday, September 26th, when the group will be performing at the Museum of Making Music in Carlsbad, California. As part of the San Diego Sound Project, we are offering both an in-person concert experience. You can get tickets on our website, museumofmakingmusic.org, as well as a free live streaming online event. So you can RSVP for that, so we can send you the link to that concert. You can watch it at your convenience, or you can watch it live just like you're watching this episode live, and use the chat to engage the artists and post questions to our staff. We'll be monitoring that while they're performing. We've upgraded our live streaming concert system to really offer you some excellent camera angles, like you're almost right on stage. Well, you basically are on stage with the band, and then we're taking the sound right from that soundboard right to the online stream. So you'll get the best sound experience and the best concert experience, short of being there in person. So again, Sunday, September 26th, in-person concert for those who are in the area and want to purchase tickets. We have tickets available. Go to museumofmakingmusic.org to get your tickets for this performance, as well as the online live stream of this event. Also RSVP on museumofmakingmusic.org. Other than that, it's been a great day. So lovely to have another Mom at Home episode. I know we're doing these once a month now, and I kind of have to dust off the rust from the studio once in a while and remember how to do these, but I hope that you guys had a wonderful time. It was nice to see so many people from around the world. We had actually some folks, at least one guest from Germany, one from Nova Scotia, and then all over the place. And then a couple of our North Coast Strings members were here. That's our adult orchestra program, so that was lovely to see them here as well. And everyone was just so complimentary of your music, Jacob. And I think we here on our staff, Bill and I are too, and we hope to see and hear from you in the future too. Until then, everyone, thank you for joining us. Take care, and we hope you have a wonderful week. Hopefully we'll see you back on Thursday. Go visit our website, museumofmakingmusic.org, to learn how you can participate in the show notes, and hopefully we'll see you this Sunday too for our concert. Until then, take care.